Hello friends, thanks for watching Right Shift. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing how to build inspiration from a writing prompt or a scene. Let's get to it. Alright, so yesterday I was talking with my son about one of the stories he's been working on for a couple of years, and he was looking to see if what he had come up with for his villain's backstory would be something that would be interesting or if there was room for it to improve. What he provided for me was pretty much a Batman-inspired backstory in which his antagonist was with his parents and they were confronted by an assassin whom he was able to wrest a gun away from, and in the process ended up shooting his parents and the assassin, and was left there in a location to be determined. My son wasn't very specific about it, and a superhero named Silas decided to show up and basically blamed David, the antagonist, for the murders of both his parents and the assassin. And from that point forward, David decided to blame all superheroes for the deaths of his parents, which I thought was weird. So we'll break that down right now. Okay, the first things I thought of while talking to him about this situation was, all right, you've got this kid who's an early teenager or late preteen, so 12, 13 years old, and his parents are billionaires, just like Bruce Wayne and his parents were. And they found themselves in a situation where there was an assassin involved. And I asked him about that choice of assassin. It was somebody who was purposefully sent to kill David's parents. I wanted to know why. Who is this assassin working for? What is the reason why the parents were targeted for the assassination? If this was supposed to be an assassination, was it due to some sort of business situation between David's parents or his father or mother? Was there something involved with a competitor that maybe had set them into the sights of some illegal workings? The next thing I thought of was, all right, you've got this 12-year-old kid who somehow manages to get a weapon away from an assassin. So somebody who is highly trained, who somehow just happens to be inept enough to lose control of the one weapon that he's got. I thought that was kind of an unrealistic scenario as well. And I told him, hey, you got to look at it from this frame of mind. This guy is highly trained. He's probably doing it from a unseen vantage point. What situation would occur that would put this assassin in a position to have his weapon taken away from him by a 12-year-old kid? Why would this 12-year-old kid, while shooting at an assassin, happen to hit both of his parents and keep on shooting before taking out the assassin himself? His next thing that my son came up with was, hey, well, what if they were at a gas station and he happened to shoot the gas dispenser and it exploded and killed his parents and the assassin? And I'm like, well, if it was able to kill both of those two people and the assassin, why wasn't David injured in this? He's like, I hadn't thought about that either. A lot of the things that I look at when I'm approaching writing a scene or a story or a chapter is, what is the prompt that I'm trying to go with? What types of backstory am I trying to build into this scenario? He was trying to come up with a reason for David to not like superheroes. I told him, A, from just stealing the Batman backstory, this was not a very original idea to come up with, and B, there's really nothing in it that drives his antagonist into a position to dislike a superhero that came to rescue him. The end portion of his little story scenario was that, at the end of all of this, the superhero Silas decides to show up and is unable to rescue David's parents, and in fact places some of the blame onto David. David doesn't take that news very well for himself. Building from that, I think David has his mind already in some sort of disarray. I told him, hey, put yourself in David's shoes. How would you react if you had shot me and your mom? What kind of feelings would be going through your head? Would you be able to continue on your path of shooting this bad guy who was attempting to hurt you and your parents? How would you feel if you were successful? How would you feel if you had just killed your own parents? And this was just opening up his mind to a whole bunch of different ideas. He's like, wow, I hadn't considered that, or I hadn't considered that. I told him, you need to put yourself into his mindset and wonder why he would blame this superhero for not being there to rescue him. Does this superhero, Silas, know about his parents at all? Thinking, hey, maybe his mom or dad knew that something was going to go bad for them and had requested help from this superhero, and that superhero had promised to come and had failed to show up. But I think in the big case of things, superhero has got this whole city to cover. He's not going to be making a priority to just find these two people out of, hundreds of thousands or millions of people that live in the city, and just be prescient enough to know that there was going to be a problem there. My son is autistic. He gets a lot of his inspiration and motivation from cartoons and comic books, and I can understand that, and I can see that in the way he constructs his stories and he writes his stories. What I tell him to do is, there's always going to be a little bit of fantasy or unreality to the situations that his characters are going to be in. Being able to come up with answers to a lot of the questions that I kind of pose to him will help create a frame of reference in his mind for, the location that his characters are existing in, the backstories for his characters, the motivations between the characters and their surroundings, or the characters and their the antagonist protagonist relationship between them. Those don't need to necessarily be concretely written into his story, but they can be there in his mind to help inform the way he writes his characters and directs the scenes as he's trying to come up with a better way of telling the story. Lately, I've been putting a lot of effort into locating a bunch of story prompts for writing and making a bunch of YouTube short videos based on them. And I think if you were to use some of those as your own inspiration for a story, you can make not just a short story, but even a longer novella or actual novel based off of that, by just asking yourself questions about the scenario that is being posed to you. And as you build out those scenarios, you just ask yourself more and more questions. It becomes a big spider web or a lattice work that can help direct where you want to go with the story and get you from that one little sentence or a little short paragraph into something a lot bigger, a lot more complicated, and a lot more interesting. If you've had issues with coming up with inspiration for a scene or how to proceed with a scene, I'd be interested in hearing about it by having you put that into the comments section below. If the rest of this video has been of use to you, or you've allowed yourself to come up with more questions for a scene that you're possibly working on, I would appreciate it if you'd click like on this video and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you again in the future. Thank you for watching.